I had never planned on hiring live-in help. Growing up in a small Vermont town, I was raised to believe you handled your own household, no matter how chaotic it became. But by the time January rolled around, chaos felt like our new normal. My husband, Ben, had just accepted a promotion that kept him traveling every other week. Our kids, 7-year-old Lily and 5-year-old Noah, were bundles of energy who seemed to sprout new needs overnight, and I was still reeling from the sudden death of my mother the previous spring. The grief hovered like a low, constant fog. I'd wake up every morning to lunches to pack, deadlines to meet, and the gnawing absence of the woman who used to help me navigate it all. It was Ben who suggested hiring someone. "Just a few months," he said gently over dinner one night, his hand covering mine. "Someone to help with the kids, the house. You don't have to do everything, Claire." I wanted to argue, to insist I could handle it, but the truth was written in the dark circles under my eyes. So I found myself scrolling through applications late into the night, reading about people from every corner of the world who were willing to move into a stranger's home and make it run smoother. Most of the candidates looked good on paper, but one name kept drawing me back: Maria Santos, a Filipina woman in her early 40s. Her references were impeccable, her experience broad: childcare, cooking, even elderly care. Yet it wasn't her resume that caught me. It was a single sentence in her brief cover letter: "I believe a household runs best when it is filled with quiet kindness." Quiet kindness. I didn't know I was starving for those words until I read them. When the day of the interview arrived, Vermont greeted us with one of its harshest snowfalls. Thick flakes whirled sideways, erasing the outlines of houses and trees. I almost called it off, but the thought of rescheduling made me sigh with exhaustion. Maria arrived precisely on time, a figure in a navy coat dusted white by snow. When I opened the door, the cold rushed in with her. She removed her boots neatly on the mat, then looked up at me with a soft smile. Her eyes, dark and steady, carried something I couldn't name, a kind of calm that seemed to steady the room. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Thompson," she said, her accent lilting but clear. "Please call me Claire," I replied, already aware of how formal Mrs. Thompson sounded. I led her to the kitchen, where the smell of cinnamon lingered from a loaf of bread I de-baked earlier in a rare burst of energy. Lily and Noah peeked from behind the staircase, whispering and giggling. Maria crouched to their level without hesitation. "You must be Lily and Noah," she said warmly. "It's nice to meet you." Lily, normally shy, stepped forward first. Noah followed, eyes wide. Maria didn't reach for them, just smiled and let them decide if they wanted to come closer. Within minutes, they were showing her the snow fort they were building outside, pressing their little noses against the window. Over tea, Maria told me about her life. She'd grown up in Cebu, the second of 5 siblings. She'd worked for families in Singapore and Hong Kong before moving to the United States on a work visa. She spoke of her teenage daughter, Althea, who was staying with Maria's sister while Maria saved money for her education. Every detail was offered humbly, without any hint of rehearsed charm. I noticed how she listened, really listened, when I spoke. Her head tilted slightly, eyes focused. She asked about my children's favorite meals, their allergies, their bedtime routines, as though their well-being was already a priority. At one point, the power flickered. A burst of wind rattled the windows. Without missing a beat, Maria glanced toward the pantry. "Do you have candles and matches in case the electricity goes?" she asked, as if she'd already adopted the house's needs as her own. When Ben returned from work later that evening, he found the 3 of us at the kitchen table. Maria sipping tea, Lily and Noah perched beside her, hanging on every word as she told them a Filipino folk story about a clever monkey and a slow turtle. The kids were laughing, their earlier shyness forgotten. After she left, the house felt suddenly quiet, almost too quiet. Ben and I exchanged a look that needed no words. "Well," he said finally, "that was easy." I nodded, my throat tight. Easy wasn't a word I'd used for anything in months, but Maria's presence had settled something in me, like a warm blanket over frayed nerves. That night, as I tucked the children into bed, Lily whispered, "Mommy, can the nice lady come back tomorrow?" I smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. I hope so, sweetheart. Downstairs, I opened my laptop to send Maria an offer. Before I typed a single word, I paused, listening to the wind outside and the soft creak of our old house. For the first time in a long while, the weight on my chest felt just a little lighter. Maria moved in on a Sunday, a week after the storm that had almost canceled our first meeting. The kids waited at the window like they were expecting a celebrity. When her taxi finally crunched up the icy driveway, they bolted to the door, practically vibrating with excitement. She stepped inside carrying just 2 modest suitcases and a small potted plant wrapped in brown paper. "For the kitchen," she said with a shy smile, handing me the plant, a glossy basil that filled the room with a peppery scent. Fresh herbs bring good luck. That first evening, Maria insisted on cooking dinner. I offered to help, but she waved me off with gentle certainty. Soon the kitchen was alive with smells I couldn't quite name. Garlic sizzling in oil, something tangy and sweet that mingled with the familiar scent of onions. She called the dish chicken adobo, explaining each step as if she were teaching a beloved recipe to a younger sister. When Ben came home, the house smelled like a cozy bistro. Lily and Noah hovered around the stove, fascinated. We all sat together at the oak table, steam curling up from the dark, savory sauce. The first bite startled me, rich, comforting, with a delicate balance of soy and vinegar. Ben raised his eyebrows in delighted surprise. "This is incredible," he said. Maria laughed softly. "It is the national dish of the Philippines. There are many versions, but this one is from my mother." It was the first of many small introductions to her world. Over the next few weeks, our home became a quiet crossroads of cultures. Maria would hum lilting Tagalog songs while folding laundry. She taught Lily and Noah to count in her language, their voices bright with new syllables. Isa, dalawa, tatlo. They began calling her Tita Maria, the Filipino word for aunt. I noticed the changes in the rhythm of our days. Mornings no longer felt like frantic sprints. Maria woke before dawn, preparing breakfast and packing the children's lunches with careful notes tucked inside, little drawings of hearts or smiling suns. She ironed Ben's shirts so crisply they looked new, yet she never made her presence feel intrusive. Instead, she seemed to anticipate needs before they arose. A hot cup of tea waiting when I returned from work, a basket of folded laundry placed silently outside the bedroom. One evening, after the children were asleep, I found her in the living room, mending a tear in Noah's favorite stuffed rabbit. She looked up, startled. "I hope it's all right," she said. "I know he loves this toy." Something about that simple gesture, taking the time to repair what others might have thrown away, made my throat tighten. "It's more than all right," I replied. "Thank you." Maria's kindness spread through the house like sunlight creeping into dark corners. Even Ben, who was often buried in spreadsheets and late-night conference calls, began to slow down. I'd catch him lingering at the kitchen door, listening to Maria's stories of her childhood in Cebu, the scent of sea air at dawn, the way her grandmother used to braid her hair. One snowy Saturday, she taught us to make pandesal, soft bread rolls dusted with breadcrumbs. The kitchen filled with the warm, yeasty scent as we rolled dough into small balls. Lily and Noah giggled when the flour puffed into little clouds. Maria's laughter joined theirs, light and genuine. While the dough rose, I found myself asking questions I hadn't planned. How did she decide to leave home? Was it hard being so far from her own daughter? Maria paused, wiping her hands on a towel. "It is not easy," she admitted. "But Althea understands. This work is for her future. We talk every week, and I send what I can. Sacrifice is a kind of love, yes?" Her words settled deep in my chest. Sacrifice as love. I thought of my own mother, of the countless ways she had poured herself into me without asking for recognition. Maria never complained, but I began to notice small signs of homesickness, the way she lingered by the window during long snowfalls, or the quiet sigh she gave when a Filipino song played softly from her phone. One night, I suggested we try a Filipino market I'd heard about in Burlington. Her face lit up with a gratitude so pure it made me ache. That weekend, we piled into the car, the children chattering with excitement. The market was small but vibrant, filled with bright packets of dried mango, tins of sardines, and unfamiliar spices. Maria moved through the aisles like someone touching memories, running her fingers over labels, pausing to breathe in familiar scents. She bought ingredients for sinigang, a sour tamarind soup, and a small box of ube candies for the kids. Later, as we shared the steaming soup at our dining table, I felt the invisible distance between our worlds shrink. The flavors were new to me, tart, comforting, earthy, and yet the moment felt profoundly familiar. We were simply a family, passing bowls around the table, laughing when Noah made a face at the tamarind's tang. Maria's quiet influence extended beyond food and chores. She had a way of seeing people that changed the atmosphere of our home. When Ben came back from a stressful business trip, she greeted him with a warm cup of ginger tea and a soft, "Welcome home, sir," that carried more comfort than any long speech. When I buried myself in work late into the night, she would leave a small plate of fruit by my desk, never interrupting but somehow reminding me to care for myself. One frigid February evening, a neighbor's car spun out on the icy road near our house. Without hesitation, Maria bundled herself in a coat and dashed outside with a flashlight. I followed, heart racing. Together, we helped guide the driver, a young college student, back to safety. The gratitude in the girl's eyes mirrored what I felt every day but rarely voiced. That night, as I watched Maria kneel to remove her snowy boots, it struck me again how seamlessly she had become part of our lives. Not as an employee, but as someone whose kindness filled spaces we hadn't known were empty. Weeks turned into months. Our children began drawing pictures of our family with 5 figures instead of 4. When Lily's teacher asked her to name the people she loved most, she proudly listed Mommy, Daddy, Noah, and Tita Maria. One evening, after bedtime stories and dishes, I found Maria sitting quietly by the fireplace, gazing into the flames. I sat beside her, the house wrapped in gentle silence. "Do you miss home?" I asked. She nodded, eyes reflecting the flicker of firelight. "Every day. But here also feels like home." I reached over, covering her hand with mine. "We're lucky you chose us," I said softly. Her eyes shone, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. Outside, snow began to fall again, blanketing the world in white. Inside, the warmth of shared stories and unspoken understanding made the room glow.